Can Bette Midler save this sequel 29 years in the making? Time to find out. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Nightmare Collective. I'm Chris. Thanks for stopping by and watching my review for Hocus Pocus 2. Is it good? Let's find out. So, this picks up 29 years after the original 1993 classic Disney film Hocus Pocus. So I'll give you my brief thoughts on Hocus Pocus and then we'll get into its sequel. So overall, I like Hocus Pocus. I'm not a die-hard ravenous fan for Hocus Pocus, but I do enjoy that movie. My wife hates that movie, funny enough. We watched it, I think we watched it last year for the first time. She'd never seen Hocus Pocus, and I made her watch it, and she was just like, ugh. And then last night I was like, hey, do you want to watch Hocus Pocus 2? And she's like, that shit? No. So, you know, to each their own, but she is basically the other side of that coin where she doesn't like Hocus Pocus, which is weird. I mean, she didn't grow up watching Hocus Pocus, and I feel like that's why a lot of us like Hocus Pocus, because we grew up watching that original movie it's like that and like Halloween Town, you know, later on, and there was a lot of stuff. I mean, I was also watching weird shit at that time, like Basket Case, and I was watching The Exorcist and Tales from the Crypt, and I was watching hardcore horror as opposed to this. But overall, I do like the original movie. I think it's a fun movie. I know some people hate that movie now, and I feel like they're bullshitting. I mean, I can, come, on terms with you and be like, okay, it's not that great, and we can all agree, but for people that are like, oh, it's just bad, I don't believe Hocus Pocus is bad. I'm not saying it's amazing, but for a Disney Channel movie at the time, a Disney movie at that time, it's pretty good and it's pretty dark for its era, which most of those movies were, but definitely dark, and so it's still something as an adult that you can watch and get something out of. There's a lot of jokes for adults in that movie, which, I mean, this one has a few of that, but still, it's not as, dark as that first one, so I like it for being that dark, man. They're like, we're gonna suck up children's souls, and we're gonna be young again, and we're gonna live forever, because we're witches. And so that's basically the premise of that. But let's get into its sequel. So this premiered on Disney Plus last night, and overall I thought it was all right. I mean, it's fine. It's not as bad as I thought it was going to be. I feel like this is, the sentiment of the week. Not as bad as I thought it was going to be. So I recently reviewed Smile. You can check that out if you haven't watched that yet, but not as bad as I thought it was going to be. Hocus Pocus 2, definitely not as bad as I thought it was going to be. Now, are hardcore fans of this movie going to like this movie? I don't know. I don't know where we sit with that. Now, I have seen people on Twitter and everything. Apparently, everybody's really liking this movie, so I guess they did their job. I guess they gave us a sequel that kind of mixes the old with the new, which, I mean, the main thing I was worried about was that they were going to sideline the original three in favor of this new breed, which is what Disney tends to do with properties that they're kind of bringing back. They're like, hey, yeah, you remember that old shit, but you need to watch these kids that are super annoying because you're in your 30s and they're 15 and you definitely aren't gonna like their acting because it's bad. But this movie does subvert that a little bit, and I think especially the main girl, she's definitely better than her two friends that she's with. They're fine, but she is definitely the standout as far as the friend group goes. And obviously, our original three are amazing. The Johnny Miller and Sarah Jessica Parker are all great in this. It is very funny because there is a clear product placement for this movie that goes on for a long, long time. And it's a Walgreens placement. And it's kind of funny. As someone who, I will mention this now, who works at a Walgreens in a management role, this is very almost nauseating to watch because I'm just I go to this place every day. It rules my world, and now I have to watch this extended scene in the cleanest Walgreens I've ever seen in my life, and one of the nicest Walgreens I've ever seen in my life. They definitely don't look like that. So this is definitely a weird product placement, especially somebody who works there and has for years. It's just funny to watch. And so I thought that was pretty funny. It did pull me out of the movie, that part. I was just getting flashbacks to work. I was just like, dear God. Oh my God. So that part pulled me out. But other than that, I mean, it's typical product placement. I'm sure anybody who gets that, who works at a Target or a Walmart or works at a Best Buy and they throw that crap in a movie, you're just like, oh my God, can we just not do this? Can I just avert my eyes for a minute so I don't have to watch what's going on? But anyway, other than that, I feel like this movie was just fine. I think the story overall was pretty good. We get some exposition in the front, kind of reiterating what happened in the first one. So I don't think you really have to watch the first one to watch Hocus Pocus 2. But I think you'll obviously get a lot more out of it if you've seen that original movie, especially if you grew up in that time. You're going to have a lot to enjoy here. If you haven't seen that movie and you didn't grow up with it, I mean, I think you're going to have the same sentiment as the first one as the second one. You're just going to be like, why do I care about these 3 witches or Billy coming back from the dead? Why do I need to see this? My biggest gripe. So let's get into my gripes. These are my positives. Not that bad, not better than the original, but it could have been a lot worse. But my biggest gripe is that there's a lot in that original movie and there's a lot of characters in that original movie I wish they had brought back. They mentioned Thackeray in this, but, you know, they just don't bring any of that back and they really focus on these new characters, which is fine. But as somebody who's a fan of the original, I wish they had, you know, strung that along a little more. And overall, even though this movie is almost 2 hours, it does feel kind of short, whereas that original movie definitely felt bigger than what it was. You know, there was more of like an in-depth storyline and we were following these characters and you care about them way more than you care about this girl, you know, who has witch powers now. So that's definitely an element of this that I was like, ugh, I don't like that. I don't like that so much. You know, before they were just like regular kids. They kind of got wrapped in this mess. And so that was definitely more interesting. Whereas this is like, okay, well now you're cheating. You gave this girl, you know, witch's power. She's going to create a witch's brew and, you know, she's going to be like Homestar Runner. And then, you know, everybody's going to be walking around as the bee, you know? If you get that reference, great. I love me some Homestar Runner. Oh, maybe go watch the Halloween episode again. I am the bee, you know? Anyway, let's continue on. So overall, my thoughts are, it's fine. It's not as good as the original, but it's not terrible. I think you have a good time. If you like the first one, I think you'll like this one. But if you're not a fan of that first one, I don't know this was going to like pull you into the Hocus Pocus multiverse that they've got going on. Will there be another one? They do reference like a, you know, like I don't want to give away spoilers. They do make a reference to something at the very end. So there could be another one. I don't know if it would involve the original 3. Maybe if this does really well, they could come back in some capacity. I just don't know how they do. I think that this left us very resolved at the end of this, and I think it was a good ending for those 3 characters. So maybe if we follow the new 3 characters, or if we've got something else going on with witches, you know, we could kind of continue this, but I don't feel like we need to. But they probably will because they're Disney and they exploit everything. Hence why we're getting Mustafa. Like, ugh. Why? Why are we getting that? Why are we getting that prequel? I don't need to know where he came from. Anyway, I'm ranting about terrible Disney decisions like every live action movie they make. But overall, I think you're going to enjoy this. Is it amazing? No. Is it bad? No. But check it out. It's on Disney Plus. And I guess it can't hurt to watch, you know? If you got a night to spare, throw it on. Or if you want to wait closer to Halloween, throw it on. You know, if you got kids, I mean, they'll definitely like it. So it's definitely a movie that you could probably throw on with your kids and they'd probably enjoy it. And you can kind of enjoy it if you like the original one. So I guess in that aspect, if you do have some little kids, you can throw it on and I'm sure they'll also enjoy it. So that's pretty much all I got. You know, thanks for watching my review. If you like what I do, consider becoming part of the collective. You can check out some of my other reviews I've recently done. I recently did Smile and The Monsters, and I've got my best friend's Exorcism coming out tomorrow, so check that out. You know, that was another streaming movie that I thought it was okay, but check out that, and that's pretty much all I got. So, as always, don't forget, some doors should never be opened.